Ben, I'm going to start by asking you, this is a film that seems to leap boldly and wildly from the imagination, but you must have had a starting point. Where did you begin?
It started in a couple different places. It started with, sort of finding this specific place at the very, very bottom of the road when you drive basically all the way to the bottom of America and you hit the very, like where the sidewalk ends, essentially. And it kind of began there, being really inspired by these towns and these cultures that are kind of holding out right on the edge, and then sort of finding its way through this very fantastical play that my friend Lucy Alabar wrote, and that had the characters of Hush Puppy and Wink and the Aurochs, and it was almost the way that this fable kind of fused with reality, and that's where, I don't know, that was the chemical mixture that the film came out of.
Well, the idea of reality is a very interesting one in this context, because you really immersed yourself, by living in this place for quite some time before and while making the film, which suggests that you were sort of striving for an authenticity, and yet reality seems to be such a slippery feature in Hush Puppy's world.
Yeah, but to me, it's a very real movie. It's just from the point of view from when you're 6, and when you're 6, the crack in the sidewalk can be a universe, and so it was about trying to figure out exactly what, try to get this sort of the spirit of this place right, and sort of find a way to build it from real parts, not to depict it like it was a documentary or something like that, but sort of look at it in the most kind of spectacular vision, the way that you see things when you're 6, and the way that kind of reality spills into fantasy, the way that small things become big things and everything is connected. So it was important to learn everything you could and listen and sort of use the material that the real world gives you, and then make sure that we stuck to the interpretation of Hush Puppy.
And Quivenjane, can I ask, how did Ben find you, and then how did he tell you what the film was about?
He found me at the auditions at the library, and what he told me was that about the movie was he wouldn't tell me like the whole thing, but he would just like tell me at different scenes. He would be like, this is what this is about, and this is what this is about. So.
And what kind of things did he tell you?
He would be like, this is a serious scene, so get focused. So, this is a funny scene, so you can move around. And it was just be like, okay, I'll be ready. Oh, we would have our different colors. Would you like to say the colors?
Yeah, we had a particular method for this one scene where she had to be angry, and she presented me with a multiple choice of, she said, well, I can be yellow angry, red angry, or purple angry. Which one do you want? And I said, well, what's the most angry? And she said, well, purple is the most angry. And so I said, well, purple is what I want. And she said, no, you don't even want to see purple. I'll give you red. So she gave me red angry.
Can I ask you, Ben, about the ecological aspects of this are really, she doesn't want to answer that one. The ecological aspects of this are also very present, and yet not aggressively overt, but it does seem to be something that is preoccupying through the film. Is that something that you were thinking about and responding to?
Yeah, and it's and again, it's sort of learning everything about what's actually going on down there, which is this sort of very complicated. You can make fun of me while I'm doing this. She's thinking about the last question, she said. Sort of learning everything about how this is happening scientifically, and then sort of thinking about how you experience it when you're 6, and what's going on is on a very kind of emotional level. People have a backyard that's a cypress swamp, and from when they were 6 years old, that was a cypress swamp, and now they're 30 years old, and that's water, and that's not there anymore, and you actually are seeing your backyard disappear. And so we wanted to sort of understand what was going on ecologically, but then experience it the way that you experience that emotionally as a 6-year-old, which is like, my home is disappearing in front of me, and how that feels, and the way that her character understands that and reacts to it.
And what did you think, Kovanjane, or what do you think about the future? Does that kind of thing bother you?
Not really. I just kind of go with what I need to go with and stay put. So.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the idea was always that every element of the film was really going to be subjective. That everything was going to move through her perspective, and the sound was definitely moment to moment. The question you keep on asking yourself is, what is she hearing? Not what is the world sounding like right now. It's what is she paying attention to? And I think that both the character and also just working together really influenced that, because you have a memory of what it's like to be 6, but you have to relearn that. You sort of have pictures of it, but you have to relearn it. And she really retaught me how to think that way, and I don't know how to describe it, but I mean, if we were doing a scene and she would say, there's something like bugging me, there's like that tinkle happening somewhere, and it'd be something that I'm not even hearing, but when you're 6, you latch on to little details and things get in your head. And so we tried to sort of make the sound, you don't hear that many things at once at any given time in the movie. You're always kind of focusing in on details of sound, which is kind of something that I picked up from working with her on the character. The most difficult scene for me to shoot was the scene where Wink is dying and everybody's crying. That was really hard, and it was funny because I'm going to embarrass you, maybe. I don't know if you can be embarrassed, but when we first started working together, she was 5 years old, and she would cry a lot. I mean, just she would get cold and she would cry. I mean, she was little, and then by the time we got to the end of the shoot, she had become Hush Puppy. She was this fearsome creature, and so initially when I sort of did my notes on the scene, I thought a lot about what we were going to do to sort of help Wink's character to cry, but I always thought, oh, this is going to be easy with a little kid. But when we got to set, it wasn't easy anymore. And so what ended up happening was we had to get so far into the emotion of that scene that I'm sitting 6 inches away from her crying. Dwight is crying, the boom operator's crying, the cameraman's crying, the producers, Kovanjane's mom, who is here tonight. Hey, Mom. She was crying too, and Kovanjane was actually the last person to shed tears. And I remember when it happened, and that felt like we just got the movie. We just got it. And I remember this incredible relief. And it was really cathartic to go through that. So that was the toughest one for me. Your turn.
Scariest. What was the scariest for you?
Okay. Touching the pig. That thing is big, hairy, and I've never seen this color, and black. So it was kind of scary, and I have another scene whenever I'm in the cardboard box with the fire. That's kind of scary because, you have all that heat. Cardboard gets on heat, and it just burns. So I was kind of scared, but got to deal with it.
The schedule was a crazy thing, and we had so much of this film relied on actual natural events to happen, which you can't plan, and so things would happen. We had our flooded scene that we had to shoot, and you would get word from up north in Natchez, Mississippi, that the river was low, and then in 3 days the water was going to be too low to get your boats into your location. And so that scene was scheduled for the very end of the film, but you have to kind of take it, pull it all the way to the beginning, race the whole crew up there. And we had an amazing producing team. Our producer Dan Jambi's here, who created this schedule that could, They created this amazing schedule that could absorb these unbelievable blows, and we just had a team that was willing to kind of pivot and improvise, and yeah. Well, I basically moved down to the region. I started off doing a lot of interviews with people that are working in the environmental issues, going to colleges and going to guys that work on the water protection down there, things like that, to sort of get the scientific background. And then I moved down to basically the end of the road and moved into the marina down there. And I lived there for about 8 months, doing a much more casual type of research, which basically consists of me sitting on the dock, writing a script, which is not something that people normally do on the dock. And you create a lot of attention. And just through doing that, I met lots of people who taught me how to do, I would get picked up off the dock and taken alligator hunting, taken crabbing. And, you sort of are just trying to immerse yourself and pick up something, that's at the kind of heart of the culture through just kind of getting to know people and living down there. So, we kind of just immersed ourselves in the world of this very, very fringe community. That was Floyd Nacken, who's he appears in the film in the background, and he is the bar in the first scene of the film is his house, and he was a very close friend and kind of one of the people who I met down there who really kind of embodied the spirit of Wink and who inspired a lot of the things about Wink. And he lived a very similar story to Wink over the course of shooting, and he passed away of cancer soon after the shoot. And so it felt right to dedicate the film to him. He actually got married there's a giant parade float in the film. And sort of when he knew he wasn't going to make it, him and his partner got married on that float during post-production. And so, just very meaningful person to the movie. And the last name, it's like the town where we shot basically descends from 4 last names. It was 4 families, and his is one of them. And so lots of cousins and relatives in the area.